Hi everybody.
Hello.
Today we are here with Cosi. She comes from Germany, but she has been living in the UK for already 30 years. She's going actually to say her name properly because I'm not sure I can do it.
It's Cosima Doerfel Hill.
Thank you, Cosi.
And I will teach you later how to say it properly.
Okay. Deal. Well, she's already teaching us with all the people, the activities we do in Liverpool. First, she started as an English teacher, after as a German teacher. Apart from that, she has worked as a private tutor and also as a herbalist, skincare consultant, and she has worked as a game maker in the Olympic Games in 2012 in London, and also in Rio de Janeiro in 2016. She's already studying Japanese because probably she will go to Japan for the next Olympic Games.
Hopefully.
And apart from Japanese, she has studied a Bachelor of Arts and Ancient History in Archaeology, and she also professional qualifications as a teaching assistant, right?
That's right, yes.
So come with us and let us know more about Cosi, more in deep.
Okay, off we go.
Okay, Cosi, tell us, I wonder how or what have you been doing, how you have been earning a living for 30 years already here in the United Kingdom?
Well, Esteban, when I was still a student, I started doing some private tuitions, initially with other postgraduate students who were in need of some help with academic German. And then I got a job in a sixth form college teaching A-level German as an assistant language teacher. And following on from that, I started working as a private tutor in the same area where I still live, and I've been working there for about 19 years. And I have covered all manner of subjects, all manner of levels of ability. I've had pupils with special educational needs. I've had pupils aged 4 to 84. I've taught English, maths, German, Spanish, French, Greek, history even, geography, all kinds of different subjects. And the crux for me is to tailor my lessons to the pupils and make a bespoke lesson plan for them, so to be aware of all their challenges.
What is your technique to teach languages?
Okay, I'm actually very old-fashioned and very old school, partly because I teach a lot of German, and German is a very grammatical language and it's a very structured language. One friend of mine calls it a Lego language because it has building blocks that you put together. So that can be very boring. I try to enliven that a little bit and might make it a bit more fun just in the way I am about it. But actually what I'm asking the learners to do is very old school. It's learning really boring tables of verb conjugations and article declensions off by heart. But once you have them off by heart, it's like you have a toolkit, and then you can put things together and you can just look up a word in a dictionary and you can mold it and adapt it to what it is you're actually saying. So it's about empowering the students. And also I must say, grammar is not particularly well taught in this country. So with the other languages, when I have pupils, say for GCSE French or Spanish, that tends to be where they're falling down in school. So that tends to be where their gaps are. So again, I end up doing quite a lot of grammar. So ironically, although I was absolutely hopeless at grammar in school, I've become an expert in grammar. When I did ancient Greek in my first year at university, I failed one of my exams and I had to resit it in September, which ruined my summer. So I spent the entire summer writing a grammar book. And after that, I understood how grammar works. So my approach is, in some regards, quite old-fashioned in terms of the content, but I try to balance that by having a sense of humor, having varied topics that we talk about, using a lot of games, playing cards, very repetitive things, so that they are constantly repeating the sentence structure, the word order, and so that becomes second nature. And it's a little bit like I don't know if you're aware of conducive learning or conductive learning, where the way you learn is not, you're not told, now you say it's usually used with children with, for example, cerebral palsy. So with these children, they don't say, okay, now we are going to learn how to walk. They just say, walk over there. And then the teacher will give some pointers, or maybe pick up your foot, or, it's about making the goal and the doing of the task the goal. Mm-hmm. And not overthinking the process too much. So that's where games come into it, because you're distracted by playing a game, you're having fun with the game, so you're not getting an opportunity really to get anxious about the words you're using or picking the words. So that's pretty much my approach, I think.
Okay. Can you tell us what are the two main differences between the German and the British culture?
Okay, that's actually a very loaded question. There are quite a lot of differences, but then by the same token, I think where we are in Liverpool, it's quite different from some parts in the UK. So the first one that springs to my mind is directness. Germans can be very, very direct. To the English mind, almost to the point of rudeness. And being quite brutal, which in Liverpool you get away with that. People are more at ease with that, and they're quite direct as well. The other big difference, I would say, is that Germans are very, they have very high expectations of themselves and each other. So there's a vision of how things must be. Whereas in the UK, there's a lot more acceptance. I don't know if some of that comes from just being a foreigner, and as a foreigner you always have a bit more freedom, but certainly I think here there's a sense that the way you do things, well, that's okay and that's acceptable and that's fine. Mm-hmm.
In the other countries that have you visited in the world, lived, what are your favorites?
Oh dear. Generally countries where you have really nice warm weather, so I have no idea how I ended up here. I loved Bulgaria.
I wonder also sometimes.
It's very wet here. I love Greece. I love Bulgaria, and I love Rio de Janeiro. I didn't get to see any more of Brazil, and it's a bit of an unfinished business. I think that I must go back to Brazil one day. But certainly Greece and Bulgaria. It's the weather, the food, the mentality, and I found that similar in Brazil as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, back to the languages. How do you think are the best ways for people to learn languages?
Well, actually the classes we do with Ola people in social language learning are very beneficial, because for many language learners there's a sense of anxiety. First of all, around performance. I must open my mouth and speak, and they might have the knowledge in their heads, but they can't get it out. Being in a restaurant with a drink and a friendly atmosphere and a bite to eat, it distracts from that sense of pressure. So anything you can do to relieve the pressure is good. So for example, studying in a social setting. Another way I use for relieving pressure is to use games, role-playing, to have fun, to not take it too seriously, because also most of our learners are adults, so they come with baggage in terms of their memories from school and their experiences from school, which were not necessarily very happy ones. So it's about changing that mentality and changing that experience to a positive experience and to make it fun. Because actually, as human beings, we are most efficient when we're not aware of the work we're doing, when we're just having fun.
Mm-hmm. Let me mention also that Cosi is mother of two beautiful girls. Mm-hmm. Let us know, how do you find the balance taking care, of course, of your girls and your job?
Okay, first of all, it's hard. It's very, very hard work to meet both their needs and at the same time the needs of my students, my needs, and scheduling everything. As a general rule, most of my students are available at a time when my children are home from school themselves. And that's been the case all along. So they are usually there when I'm teaching. Sometimes they come and say hello, but as a general rule, they know that this is teaching time and my students are the priority now. And they know this because they've grown up that way. I started tutoring again when my older daughter was 1.5 years old. And it was quite hard at first to learn to give my attention and my brain power to my student, but at the same time keeping a toddler occupied and out of the way, essentially. But you know, she might still need something. So I got into the habit of giving her pens and paper for her to draw and play. And she would sit next to my students, and my students would be working and writing, and she would be scribbling and drawing as well. And with my younger daughter, I started tutoring again when she was a newborn baby, when she was 6 weeks old. So she's never known any different. She would be in my arms, and I would literally, with a baby in my arm, be, you know, marking papers, and my students next to me were beavering away. So that's one aspect, is actually recognizing that my students pay me for the contents of my brain, and my time, of course, but they have to deal with the fact that I have these other two people who are an extension of me, and they might be in the room, and they are part and parcel of that. They are not going to disturb us, and that's up to me to manage that and to balance that out. But they're there, and also
sometimes to our
sometimes they come to all our
activities.
people and they have a little drink and they sit there and they say hello to everybody, but they also have their own thing to entertain themselves with, and it's also about having a confidence as a mother and as a woman, because for many women, motherhood spells an end to their careers, and I feel very passionately that this shouldn't be the case and shouldn't need to be the case, and to have that confidence to bring your children with you in a business setting. I'm quite passionate about that.
Cosi,
Esteban.
one more question.
Yes.
How do you feel here integrated here in the society?
Within my own community, I feel very integrated. Obviously, I've been here a very long time, but that's grown over time. As a student, I was involved in student politics. I was involved with the International Students Association, but then gradually over the years, I have done all kinds of voluntary work. So you've already mentioned that I was a games maker in London 2012 at the Olympic and Paralympic Games. I also went to Rio in 2016 as part of the 1,000 UK legacy volunteers. I wasn't with the German volunteers, I was with the British volunteers. Not that it really made any difference, it was just in terms of internet, social media groups. But I've also volunteered with the British Red Cross, teaching first aid, and with my local school. And you know, sometimes it's about helping out people and making friends, but also recognizing there's somebody else needs something where I can jump in. And then I've also got a community group called the Octopus Project, where we provide educational experiences and play days for children aged 3 to 11. And that's grown its own little community over the last 3 years. And in the last 2 years, I've been involved in a book project that I've contributed to called In Limbo. And that's well, it's a response to a political decision. So, you know, it's about our personal stories, but it has that sort of political aspect to it. So it's about getting involved in, of course, the things you believe in, but also just connecting with other people, not being shy to connect with other people.
Okay, interesting story.
Thank you.
Cosi. Well, Cosi, I think it's time to finish, but before that, I think you are going to introduce somebody.
I am indeed. My children, my young daughters, were very, very beautiful and very talented. I have 10-year-old Anna Laura.
Oh.
And 8-year-old Mina. And as you can see, they are bouncy and bright and cheeky and just a little naughty, yes, but also wonderful.
Thank you for coming with us today, and Cosi as well.
Thanks for visiting.
See you in another video.
Bye.
Bye-bye.